Well, the first thing I wanted to do was play the role. I thought the role was really interesting. It would give me a lot of challenges, and I'd be able to do something different than what I'd done, and it was just really exciting. And once I did that, they said, well, why don't you direct it as well? And I looked at it at first with a kind of a bit of a jaundiced eye, you know. I didn't want to get caught into just being Boston guy, only doing movies in Boston. Next movie they go, hey, here's a Boston script, why don't you try it? I wanted to tell all kinds of stories. But when I looked deeper at this, I saw that there were a lot of really exciting elements. I saw that there was a love story, that there was a character-driven drama, and also a very unique, an interesting classic bank heist story set in a special kind of place that people hadn't seen before. So the book really inspired me in a lot of different ways. Where you grow up informs you. In fact, that's part of what the movie's about, how we are shaped largely by our environment. And when we want to change that and resist that and remodify ourselves from the way that we've been brought up, it's very, very difficult, you know, and this guy's trying to change, and he has a hard time in this movie. You know, I mean, there are things that I relate to in the character, in every character. There's things I relate to in every facet of the movie. If you're going to direct something, I think you just bring all of yourself and all of your ideas and all of your sensibilities to it. So there's a lot about Doug that, naturally I relate to, and there's a lot that, but there's a lot that I had to sort of try to imagine and bring to it as well. I think you can judge yourself as a director by who you steal from. Heat was a big model for this movie, and by the same token, it loomed so large that I want to try to not just repeat it. I mean, you look at some of the execution in that movie, it's magnificent. To me, also, this movie is about, I borrowed from Gomorrah and Amores Perros and Rafifi and The Bank Job and Friends of Eddie Coyle, and these were the movies that I thought had a humanity and an interesting character aspect, as well as people opening bank doors with guns. Yeah, the camera's always kind of at eye level. It's always moving almost as a person. The idea was to put the audience into the shoes of the robber and sometimes of the victims of these things. And if you get the camera doing something too elaborate or too sort of out in the abstract and in the subjective or in the objective, I think you start to lose a feeling of immediacy and lose an attachment to the characters, and maybe even a sense of realism dissipates with that sort of distant camera. In a way, I hope people don't feel the references. I think it's, unless you're a film school student or maybe another director and you can't help it, you want audiences to just get immersed in it. Maybe later on they'll kind of go, oh yeah, that was a bit like this. But my hope is that all those things are submerged below the surface. I had this idea, inspired by Amores Perros, of a very real car chase. There's a great chase in that movie, and it feels exciting. And, a French connection, obviously. You're in there with Papa Doyle. The reason it's good is because you identify with the characters. Additionally, with this thing, my idea was always to have it car to car, always in the car, almost handheld. Because I had stunt actors in there, I could put them in the mask, shoot over them to the police cars, over the police stunt drivers to the actors in the car, low sparrow cam so that you see the walls going by you very fast and you get a sense of this rabbit warren that they're in and trying to escape through. And, I had incredible people executing that. I mean, that plan was executed by geniuses. There's just extraordinary crew members who did a lot of work, and so I was honored by and benefited from their gifts. Well, I think you just want to know. You got to identify the characters first, kind of know who they are, and then put them in the scene so that the audience is going, feeling like they're on the ride with these guys together. There's a shot that we have that's all inside this minivan they're using to approach the one of the armored trucks they're going to rob. And I wanted to feel like one of these robbers that I researched with. He told me there's no feeling like the adrenaline when this is about to happen. You're about to open the door with a gun, approaching a guy with a gun guarding an armored truck. And I tried to put you in that minivan and carry. We had like a little doggy cam that we came out with and carry that thing all the way up through taking out one of the guards and up into the truck and do it with a sort of urgency and quickness, so you felt like it's over before you know it, which was another thing that I got from the research. Well, there's this twofold. On the one hand, I wanted great actors, and I really feel that I got them, and that's natural and obvious, right? Mostly I wanted actors who would bring A, realism, and B, complexity to the role. They weren't playing archetypes. They weren't playing stereotypes. They weren't playing good guys and bad guys. They were playing whole people that I wanted the audience to recognize in a three-dimensional sense so that they wouldn't judge them. And that's sort of the main characters. Secondary characters, I wanted to, wallpaper the movie with people that felt real and try to take as much time casting someone with one line or an extra as I did with one of the larger parts, just so that, sort of everywhere the audience turned, they felt and saw something that, should have felt real. It's one of those things you can't force a friendship. You don't know somebody for real for your whole life. We just sort of met. And so I just relied on Jeremy's gifts and committed to this idea that, we knew each other forever. And I think the main thing about that is there's like a comfort and an ease with somebody that you've known forever. And so you have to sort of let go of all your stresses and then take the risk of extending yourself to that actor and hope that they reciprocate that. And, Jeremy's just such a pro that he got it right away. Well, I can think of, the movies that I've been in that were dark. I tend to be, at a certain point, you're a victim of the things that you're cast in. I think there's certainly some darkness in what I tried to do in this performance. I'm definitely, I can't explain too much of the meta overarching thing about my career. I mean, I look back to the part in Good Will Hunting, and I see some of that, going on there. So, I sort of just take it based on the character rather than thinking about is this dark or not.